This episode of The Color of Light is brought to you by Happy Valley. Tsar Fedorsky lives on a short lane spotted with old quarries and neighbors' houses in the Lanesville woods, the northernmost village of Gloucester, Massachusetts. In 2018, Tsar received a Guggenheim Award for her series of photographs entitled The Light Under the Door, a collection of tense but ethereal black and white images shot in and around Tsar's home. Much of Tsar's work speaks to the tension between the beautiful familiarity of place and longing for some place else. About The Light Under the Door, Tsar says she wanted to create a photo narrative about a woman who dreams of a larger life. Comfortable at home, she also yearns to experience the broader world. At times, she feels alone. She seeks comfort in art, literature, and her imagination. Tsar moved to Rockport as a child. She attended Rockport middle and high schools, but that journey reveals ambivalence, a belief that maybe she should be elsewhere. It's almost a surprise that Cape Ann is home.
Well, I was born in New Orleans, and my mom quickly divorced our father, so I never got to know him. And around the age of 4, we moved to Greenwich Village. And so even though I didn't spend that much time in New Orleans, I always feel like it's a part of me, and I've returned a lot, just kind of curious about all the places that we lived. And we were in the French Quarter. She was an artist, and she worked as a street painter on the, I think she did portraits and things like caricatures. And my father was actually very good with watercolor and did caricatures in watercolor in the moment, which was supposed to be really hard. So my mom was self-taught. So we moved to New York City, and that's where I spent about 10 years. I feel like those were a big portion of my childhood, especially living in an urban environment, Greenwich Village in the 60s. It was, really fantastic. And we came to Cape Ann during the summers. My mother she was born in Fitchburg and brought up in Fitchburg in the Depression era, and she just couldn't wait to get out. So she never really wanted to come back, but she thought, well, it was just hard being a single mom in New York City in the 70s. And we were coming here for the summers, and one year the New York City schools went on strike, and they just kept going on strike, and she decided to stay here, so we stayed. That's how we ended up moving here. Yeah, it was very, just one of those things, we just stayed.
After undergraduate studies at Amherst College, Tsar intended to study international business and moved to Washington, D.C. She trained as a stockbroker, but before starting grad school, Tsar visited San Francisco. There, she happened to walk into the doors of the Art Institute and serendipitously met photographer Jock Sturgis, famous for photographs of children and teenagers. That felicitous meeting swapped out Tsar's business career for photography. After studying at the Academy of Art College in San Francisco, she returned to Massachusetts and worked as a photojournalist, freelancing for UPI, the Boston Globe, and even the Gloucester Times. But Tsar's parents' artistic lives remained a sovereign message inside her. Around 2000, Tsar joined a photography critique group led by Nubar Alexanian, an international photographer and journalist. The Boston Globe said of Alexanian's photos, "They are metaphors. Read them like a poem." Alexanian became then, and still is, an essential mentor for Tsar. In 2012, she returned to school for an MFA. Tsar shoots in black and white, saying this way the photographs shed realism for abstraction. She also enjoys printing zeotypes, an alternative print process that involves hand-coated paper and digital negatives. This allows her to produce unique prints with a handmade feel from digitally captured images. Tsar left the literal messages of photojournalism for a different language, abstraction and emotion, almost 20 years ago. She says the Guggenheim Award affirmed this course, and that felt good. And it also affirmed for her that work made from home can matter.
The way I saw the Guggenheims, I really felt I had made a lot of the right decisions. Like, even though there was so many struggles, that was just a good, a nice stamp of approval. But it also confirmed, not that only just that all the hard work was paying off, but also that I was going in the right direction, because The Light Under the Door had just been published. And I really believed that the personal work, it seemed like, as much as I wanted to travel, it seemed like you could make really a strong body of work within, even here, like my home, and within 200 yards of this house. So most of the images from The Light of the Door are photographed really close to the home.
The Guggenheim Award invited Tsar to ask, could she make photographs away from her home in Gloucester? Could she create work someplace else that still held parts of her? She chose to travel to Oaxaca, Mexico. Tsar is still editing this series entitled The Light Across the Border. She is still trying to understand what these images actually mean to her. Meanwhile, she is home again in Lanesville, shooting photographs of quarries in her neighborhood. These images seem to record the mark of infinity within a fractured second of time and space. Lessons in vastness, just steps from her Lanesville home.